a few figures here as to what we'll need to build out this 5,000 megawatts in Ireland. There'll be 1,700 turbines needed. They're going to be 3 megawatts each. 5,000 turbine blades, 1,700 nacelles, which have to be manufactured somewhere, 1,700 converters to turn this into well, it's in the turbine itself, it's part of the turbine. 30 electrical substations, there'll be about 30 individual wind farms there, 16,000 kilometres of inter-array cabling, which isn't currently being on order and isn't being manufactured in the world, and we need new facilities to manufacture that. 400 kilometres of HVDC underground cables, and hundreds of kilometres of new roads. Some of those will be paved, most of them won't be, but that is, by any stretch of the imagination, an enormous task to accomplish. And as I said, the towers and blades will at great profit be made here in Ireland, but so will an awful lot of other things. And we're going to run a supply chain conference in Tullamore, hopefully in March, to try and have a lot of people come from abroad and let the authorities in Ireland, the IDA, etc., talk to these companies, offer whatever incentives. I don't think there's an awful lot of incentives. I think the only thing that needs to be shown here is that there's a commitment from the government and commitment from Britain to actually allow this to happen. One of the big issues that will have to be dealt with, of course, is the funding, as a lot of people hear from various funding institutions. 13 billion is not a trivial amount. Let's say 7.5 billion for building the turbines. And people say to me, but that's a huge amount of money. But it's only huge in the context as to how risky it is. If, for instance, we have a contract with a number of firms in Britain, let's say the big utilities, who have to supply their customers at any rate, and you have a fixed price for a period of 20 years, well then that doesn't become an enormous amount of money, because people are used to investing in wind. It's one of the, I mean, it's attracting billions and hundreds of billions actually every year now. So, you know, it's in an Irish context, it's an enormous amount of money. And it'll have to be, there'll be a lot of administration, there'll be a lot of new institutions set up to meet that target. And that's where the Green IFC, the Green Irish Financial Services Centre comes in. We see an enormous amount of work to be done there. We see a whole load of new companies being set up here in Dublin as a trade-off from what is going to be happening in the Midlands. And it'll be all in the context of a massive supercluster. For me, some of you might know, I was managing director of Bord na Móna for 7 years. Had a great time there, learned how to be a manager, well, partly anyway. And we see Bord na Móna, when I was there, one of the best things that I did was to close all the old power stations and build 3 new ones. And we got money out of Europe to do that. Now, they're all going to be closed by 2020. And one of the most industrialised counties in Ireland, based on the excellence of Bord na Móna over the last 50 years, is going to have no employment from that source after 2020. So here's a tailor-made solution to the industrialisation of our Midlands. And not just having an aggressive, if you like, huge job front, but actually protecting the jobs of those who are there and won't be employed any longer, making mill peat in the Midlands. So there's a couple of figures I'm going to throw at you, and then I'm going to sit down. For every landowner, there's going to be 18,000 euros per turbine. For the rates to the local authorities, it's going to be something like 21,000 per turbine. We're going to make, and we've committed to do this through a deal with the IFA, we're going to make 7,000 per turbine available to local communities to build sports facilities or build whatever per turbine. So that's an enormous amount of money flowing not to the landowners and not to the local authorities, but directly into the communities. The rents will be 7.2 million a year, the rates will be 8.4, the communities 2.8, and the total is 18.4 millions. When fully built, the annual income to the Midlands will exceed 60 million. And of course, plus wages and salaries for manufacturing, which we haven't talked about. But if we do get our act together here, if we do manage to attract in these big companies, we are going to see that happening. And of course, all of you who are involved in the in the services, you know, the PwCs and everybody else of life, and the legal firms. There's going to be an awful lot of that stuff needed as well. So, in summing up then, to say, this is an opportunity that comes along once in a lifetime. I'm honoured to be in a position to be able to offer that service and to be able to take take something that has no inherent value and turn it into a treasure trove for this country and for Britain as well, where we see, and for the future after that. This is just the first endeavour as we replace fossil fuels. By 2050, Europe says there's going to be no more electricity made from fossils. It's going to be entirely decarbonised. Now, where do you think Europe's going to get its energy from? I mean, it doesn't have too many options. Wind in our northern capes and our northern countries, and solar in the south. So we're playing here for the start. We're starting off the big transition, this once-off transition to sustainability. And we in Ireland can play an absolutely massive role in delivering that. And we start with the Energy Bridge project. Thanks very much indeed, ladies and gentlemen. You've been very attentive.